Number 3, compliance, self-management, and emotional control are the goals of Self-Reg. We still have a lot of people that have the wrong, are operating from a different definition. They'll quote you, they'll reference you, and then they really truly don't understand what self-regulation is.
Yeah, this is a big problem because our whole culture is so deeply grounded in this compliance model without knowing it, by the way.
Yeah.
I was just telling the guys that I was at my daughter's soccer game 2 nights ago, and a dad from the opposite team was sitting close to us, and he yells out at his daughter, "Remember, if you score a goal, you get an ice cream." And then he changes his mind about 5 minutes later, and he says, "No, if you score a goal, you get $5 for every goal you score."
Oh, yikes.
And I thought, well, there goes that kid's pleasure in playing soccer. And of course, the problem is that they start playing to get the $5, and that might work for a bit, but compare that to the fulfillment that a child gets from the fun of playing soccer, from the desire to do it, from all those internalized factors. This is an important myth.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's that distinction. People hear us say this and think we don't want, kids who comply with rules, or that we don't know that there's some science out there about, self-control and being able to deal with your own emotions. It's all out there. But when we work on that directly, what we're working on a different part of the brain. What we're really prioritizing, why those. We're trying to understand really what's at the root of why those are struggles for so many kids, and it's something completely different. And we can make it worse if we focus on compliance and self-control and emotional control. I had that message.
I'm working on something for you right now.
Yeah.
It'll take me a couple of weeks to finish it. The neuroscience behind this. But essentially, what you can do when you insist on compliance is you can, through a reward or the fear of a punishment, you can produce short-term compliance. Mm-hmm. And it's a very interesting question of what's actually going on in the brain when this happens. It's expensive. It's very expensive on the child. And this is the reason why in science it's called generalizing from the episode, why it doesn't generalize. And what that means is that that child hasn't developed that internalized desire to behave in the way that you want. And really what we're trying to do is, when we move away from this self-control paradigm, what we want is for the child to internalize these, you gave the example before, like these pro-social virtues. Yeah, this is huge. And what we know now is that a child only develops those traits and only develops those desires when it does come from something within themselves. The irony in all of this is it turns out that, and this is not something that we've discussed at any length, but it turns out that the more you insist on compliance, the more you subvert the very traits that you were trying to develop.
And from just thinking in terms of mental health, I'm going to say my own, there's a piece of that, like with my daughter, but I did this in my teaching as well. I want her to be able to trust herself.
That's great.
To make good decisions. Because, even
Yeah,
as a teacher, I always focused not on the kids complying. I always, and I remember telling them the measure of it was what they did when I was away or when my back was turned. And that's because they wanted to. And, because I want everybody, kids, to feel good about themselves, but to feel that they can truly trust themselves.
We've lost sight of that.
Yeah,
that one is really, really,
we really have. And so self-regulation is what makes self-control possible. And that's why we focus on a very different piece of the puzzle.
That's great.
We focus on what comes first, actually.